So if you missed last week's video, I showed how to diagnose a shorted M92 chip, and we went through the process of diagnosing that and removing the chip. If you haven't seen that video, go ahead and check it out real quick. It's a short one, and then you can get back to this one, because we're going to pick up where we left off. Let's get started. Alright, so we're now going to go under the microscope, looking at the board that we have without the chip. Here you can see we've got our new M92 chip, and one of the special tools that I'll be using for this is the gold-plated FPC connector revolving solder bar. You can see I have one inserted right here. We're going to use this to help spread the solder evenly. And I've got some 183 solder paste with a syringe. This will help me deposit it exactly where I need to. So let's go into the microscope and figure that out. Alright, the first thing that we're going to do is take a little flux, and then we'll get out our soldering iron and wick, and I'm going to suck up all of the solder on all of the pads. To make this easier, you can add some low melt, like a 138, to all of the solder. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to take a little bit of solder paste and just go around the border. We'll take our hot air and we'll deposit the correct amount that we want on all of the pads. Just like that, we will get out our new chip. Now this is something that I like to do, but isn't necessary, is I'm going to put a little bit of flux on there and a little bit of solder on my tip. So I'm just going to take the time to go around the perimeter, adding solder to each one of these pads, creating nice little pillows of solder, and I might even throw some in the middle as well, just to make sure that we get solid contact with this big ground plane in the middle. That's probably plenty, and we'll go here on the side and do the same. Nice little pillows. And we've got plenty of flux on there. It's a little discolored, but it isn't anything that I would be concerned about. So let's flip this over onto the board, and you can see that there's a circle here in this corner. We need to line that up in the proper corner, and there's a nice little triangle here pointing to this corner as the correct one. So we'll spin the chip around, lining up that dot with that corner. I love motherboards that have these little guides. It makes it really simple. We'll square it up as best we can. That flux will kind of help it stick. And we'll come in with our hot air, let it come up to temperature, and I'm going to go in circles around the chip as we come up to temperature. This is almost like preheating the board and also getting the solder to start to melt. And now that we're at temperature, I'm just going to focus the heat in the area, and eventually I'll start to see the solder become nice and shiny in that flux, and then I know that it's melted. There I can see some of the solder starting to get shiny, which means we're almost at temperature for all of it. Turn up my airflow a little bit. Now this particular chip, I like to push down on it so it's nice and flush against the board as I let it cool down. And you can see some squeeze out there. That's easily fixed. We'll just come in with the iron and we'll suck up all of the solder that's excess. And you don't want to bridge things, so I'm going to unbridge that. And this little cap I accidentally knocked over. It's got a little bit of solder on its side. So I'm just going to heat it up, and we'll let that solder, here we go back into place. We'll get everything else nice and shiny. Alright, I like that, so we'll pull it away. Take a Q-tip, and I'm just going to soak up some of the excess flux. Then I'll come in with some isopropyl alcohol, and we're going to clean up the remaining pieces of burnt flux. Alright, that looks really good. Nice and centered. All of the joints are looking good. Nice and straight. Plenty of solder on each one. Now it's time to test it. Alright, so now we've replaced the IC. Let's go ahead and test it out. Turn on our little tool here and plug it in. And last time we had a short on this line, so hopefully we see all green. That's what we're going to be looking for. Everything to show green. And it does, and we actually have a value on our CC1 line, and it matches our CC2, which means this is good to go. Let's put it back together real fast. All right, we'll quickly put it back in, enough to at least test it. We'll connect up this big flex. We'll connect up the power button, and then connect up the fan, and we'll connect up this flex. And we'll connect up the battery. I doubt that it has any power or any energy in the battery. We'll go ahead and try the power button. All right, got out my official Nintendo Switch charger. Let's go ahead and plug it in. And we're going to be looking for a battery symbol. And there we go. It's all charging finally. So that's the process of diagnosing the M92 chip, replacing it, and getting everything to work again. Obviously, I need to go ahead and reconnect everything, apply new thermal paste. This is the kind that I've been using recently. You can see there the SKU, MobileSentrix. Does it have enough juice to turn on? Probably not. No, not yet. Battery's super dead. But I'll get this charging and all back together here in a second. All right, I still need to put the back plate on, but it did just come on. So as you can see, we are charging. We've got up to 14%. Something I always like to double check is that it charges in both directions. So if I flip this guy over and plug it back in, it'll still charge. And that way I know that everything's going to work on here. Besides, we did get perfect reading with this on every pin, which means it's going to connect in every single way it needs to through the port. And we're all done.